Hello everybody, thank you again for joining a new video from Comex regarding iGel. Today I'm joined by Brian Regals-Morgan, who's an end-user compute consultant and an iGel specialist from Incentra. Hi Brian.
Hi Nick, thank you very much for having us on again.
No problem at all. So for those who haven't seen Brian and my last video, we do encourage you to review that. We'll put a link in the document for you to review. But today we'd like to talk about, I suppose, extending the conversation around if you're looking at your application strategy and how you define that for the future, why are you still looking at your endpoint strategy from the past? In the last video, we talked about the Windows 10 challenge and moving to Windows 11. But what's the scale of the problem and how much is it actually going to cost your organization to change? The current problem is that the number of Windows 10 devices in production at the moment would be the height of the moon and 600 kilometers on top. So Landsweeper actually have calculated between 32 and 40% of the workstations out there are not actually compatible to move to Windows 11. So how are you as an organization going to do that? And how do you identify the true cost of moving your devices to Windows 11? Now, defining your endpoint security strategy and considering how do we move to Windows 11, how do you look at it from a security perspective, where an average downtime from a ransomware attack is 24 days? And obviously, Brian, it can be significantly longer than that, but I don't know of any organization that can actually stay in business more than 3 or 4 days if their systems were down, let alone 24 days.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a significant impact that does need to be addressed, and thinking about ways of reducing your footprint, your risk profile, the business risk profile, and addressing those, I think will be, it is the right decision to make.
Great. So if we're forced to look at our application strategy model because you're either a Citrix or a VMware customer and you're faced with large price increases, or even Microsoft, what if you don't have any virtualization, but you want to securely deliver your SaaS, but haven't really factored your endpoint strategy into your consideration? This is where the iGel operating system comes into play. And Brian, could you just take us through a little bit around what is the iGel operating system and how do they actually bring a preventative security model to a customer's considerations?
Thanks, Nick. So the iGel OS is secure by design. What they mean by that is there's nothing on the OS that you don't put there. There's no bloatware, there's no unneeded management agents, control agents, monitoring agents that you don't want and need on those endpoints. The other part of it is there's no local data. The OS itself is a read-only service which checks itself every time it is booted to ensure that nothing on there is incorrect or corrupted or impacted by any events. It will integrate with your MFA services, your single sign-on services. The data is encrypted that is on that endpoint. And where they start to say it's modular by design, and that's what I was leading to with the secure by design, is if you need that device to have, say, the latest Workspace app or the latest AVD client or the latest Horizon client, that is the piece that's on there. You can also have browsers, you can have Microsoft Teams running locally, you can have a load of other applications. It hooks in with Parallels. It's a myriad of devices that it can allow you to access from a secure location, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't need all of the other pieces in there that you then have to secure because the user is putting information, data, components out there that you may not want as part of a zero trust engagement.
So let me get this right, Brian. You can remove the management agents that typically sit on a Microsoft box.
Yeah.
You have a read-only operating system. So you're only allowing your users to access what they need to access for their work to be productive, but you're stopping them bringing malicious items into the environment because they can't. It has integration with your core security platforms around MFA and SSO. And if there's specifics you require or they need to update, modular by design means it's simple for them to help enhance the security model and the operating system to minimize the impact to the administrators of the environment.
Yeah.
And how does this tie in with whether it's Essential 8 or NIST or ISO frameworks? Is this actually supporting that as well for organizations?
It does. It does. There's a couple of things around Essential 8 Level 2 as a minimum, that you need to have a secure management platform to be able to manage your environments. This fits exactly inside that scale. There's a really good article that Nick can share with you around you can even create your AVD environment to only be accessed by selected iGel OS devices to actually increase the level of security and being able to get into the environments. From an Essential 8 security perspective, this should be looked at as part of those engagements.
Those customers have got security front of mind. The CISOs and the security leads and the infrastructure leads, those people responsible for application delivery, really should understand what the iGel OS is and how that plays a stronger part in delivering and adhering to frameworks.
Yep.
Great news. Well, sounds like we've got another video we need to do soon, Brian. But from an iGel perspective, I suppose the consideration is, what are the statistics behind this? Why would you not consider having iGel in your environment? If you could reduce your endpoint attack surface by up to 95% because it's read-only, reduce your endpoint budgets by extending the life of existing devices or having cheaper devices that can utilize the power of the OS and your VDI solution. If you can move your Windows 11 into the cloud with existing endpoint hardware and improve your DR capabilities per device, users are more effective. And if you have a green agenda, there's actually statistics where iGel can demonstrate 22% more energy efficiency.
Yeah, it's exactly that. There's do more with less. Every single organization we talk to needs now to do more with less, be it less money, less time, less resources. The idea of the conversation is how can I deliver the end user experience I need my users to have while improving security, reducing the overall budget year on year, and improving the delivery of my service across the board. If you understand how iGel will fit in your organization, being able to take the savings in your endpoint budgets and actually put those into other pieces, which will then drive longer term savings, it's a reason to investigate the iGel OS.
I want to talk a little bit today's video regarding the TCO engagement model, something that you and I have worked with a number of times with customers, because they go, but Nick, you're the sales guy. You're going to tell me numbers, there's slides on the screen. We don't believe it. Well, this is where we do things differently. Comics have got a mature model alongside Brian at Incentra, where we ask our customers to engage with us to perform a modeling exercise. Now, we send you a cheat sheet, a calculator cheat sheet that allows you to populate with the initial information you have based on your business, your actual numbers that you're either paying out or it takes time to complete work. We actually ask for your details. We then have another meeting with you and we confirm the information and we adjust the levers in the iGel TCO calculator that reflect your current business. And that validation of information collected can be adjusted at any time. That's, oh, maybe it's a bit higher, maybe it's a bit lower. I don't agree with that. Well, let's challenge ourselves to have a conversation that looks at what is the actual TCO modeling for you to change to Windows 11 and what's the impact to consider. When we look at the initial calculations and the numbers, we're actually going to give them access to that tool yourself so you can play with that. Now, the reason we do that is manyfold. Firstly, there's a number of doubters in any organization. Just as you've doubted me as the sales guy, your colleagues are going to doubt you and see whether it's real or not. Let us play with those numbers together. If you don't have the information, you need to go and see Bob in finance or Sarah in HR around what are the numbers, etc., that in terms of the cost of things, so you can actually get a real genuine number. And once we've defined that and you have an agreeable position, what are the next steps? We actually have, for a number of customers, moved to a trial, or we're having executive discussions, or they want a demonstration, or they want to talk to customers who are already using this. And are the numbers real? And what have they seen from actually implementing iGel? Our approach is very much a collaborative approach with you, the customer, that looks at using your real data and the real data and finding from iGel solution to look at a meaningful TCO discussion that could look at a number of factors, such as how do we look at the cost of your endpoint agents, whether it's the antivirus, backup and recovery, the unified endpoint management, all those. What if we didn't need those? What if we changed to something else? What if we didn't need to have Windows 11 on all our devices? What if we can use more of the tools we have to get better value? What does that mean for your business? So, Brian, perhaps once we've gone through and captured the details, what are some of the assumptions that can be found from the documentation we help provide customers with?
At a high level, it puts a value on each of the components that the business can look at as potential savings. This could be hardware savings in extending the life of the hardware and not having to replace it. It can be risk mitigation, the reduced data loss exposure that we spoke about earlier, improved employment productivity, faster logins, faster access to your data, faster access to your applications. It can also go through how much savings your IT department will go through in regards to reduced IT time, looking at ransomware recovery, securing endpoints, imaging devices. We give an example in here of a video where we do imaging a device out of the box is 3.5 minutes from the time it's switched on to the time the user's actually actively working on that device in a managed service. And it will also give you other benefits with the costings around the TCO that eliminate the cost of management tools. How much can you save at the endpoint with not having to deliver out as many agents? Part of the output of this, and this is all provided to you as part of the TCO calculator, you get full access to this, is it will give you summaries around the business case taxonomies, which actually show you potential savings over a period of time that you define. It'll also give you the indication that around the business impacts, the ROI, the payback periods, these types of things, which again, you can adjust the values in this so that it will work for your business to be able to aid you position a business case for doing some of these changes in your organizations that will provide the long-term benefits. One of the big ones that will also provide you as an indicator is the price of inaction. So it'll give you a calculation that says how much you'll forfeit every quarter by not implementing this solution. And again, that's a big driver for why businesses should look at this as a potential change.
And I think that part of the value in our discussions is we remind the customers that this is based on their actual data. And if they don't want to be part of the landscapers, 32 to 40% of your workstations that can't be compatible with Windows 11, that cost not to change is just as impactful as the cost of actually changing for the benefit of your organization. In terms of the numbers, an example here, we obviously won't share any names, but this is a real life example where we've actually looked at what's the cost to them to change. So can you just talk through this slide for us here?
Yeah, so the The breakdown of this was an organization where we were moving about 35% of their endpoints to an IGEL OS. They've already moved over 60% of their business to a version of the Microsoft M365 licensing that doesn't allow them to run Office locally. So there's no point in putting Windows 11 on a device where you can't run Office locally. They only need a web browser, they need a secure web browser, they need to get into it quick. Well, 37% of their business devices moving across, and this is thin clients and some desktops that obviously can't run Windows 11. And there is an upfront cost to do that migration. This is completely open about it, saying in the first year, yes, you're going to be spending that money. Year 2, year 3, you're already saving more money than the investment you've made. To give a scale of how this is potentially benefiting this customer, the amount of money that they need to spend to host their entire virtual infrastructure is about the equivalent to the amount of money they're projected to save over 3 years. It's nearly a net zero for replacing their entire VDI and virtual apps environment.
And finally, as part of the calculations and the impact essentials, where this organization has a green agenda, we won't share their specific details, but we can go into a very granular level around that non-monetized value. So how do you calculate your environmental impact? Well, this actually helps you from an IT perspective, is if we change, what could the potential savings be for year 1, year 2, year 3? And really, if you are set with emissions targets or you're aiming for a goal, we can help demonstrate how you can get there as part of this TCO engagement. Brian, thanks again so much for joining me today. I think what we tried to articulate in the previous video around reframing and admitting we have a problem that we need to address together, the same questions still come back around if you are deploying an app strategy for the future, where you're either moving all to SaaS, you've been impacted by the Citrix, VMware or Microsoft price increases, why aren't you looking at your endpoint strategy and look to improve your security posture and alignment to your security framework along the same journey? We would love to speak to you regarding undertaking your TCO modeling or understanding how we can help support you from a Windows 11 change perspective. So please get in contact with the sales team at Comex today. We'd love to speak to you a little more about how IGEL can help, how our services can assist you.